Science just proved milk is a anti-inflammatory. You've seen it everywhere. On your social media feed, in wellness blogs, from health gurus, and even well-meaning friends. The message is simple and stark. Dairy is the enemy. You're told that a glass of milk, a slice of cheese, or a bowl of yogurt is secretly fueling a fire of inflammation inside your body, leading to everything from acne and bloating to chronic disease. It's become an accepted dogma of modern wellness culture. Cut out dairy, they say. If you want to be healthy, if you want to fight inflammation, ditch dairy completely. This idea is so pervasive, so deeply ingrained in our health consciousness that questioning it feels like heresy. But what if this entire narrative, this story that has convinced millions to fear a food that has been a staple for millennia is just fundamentally wrong? You've been told that dairy is the enemy of inflammation, that to feel your best, you have to cut out milk, cheese, and yogurt completely. But what if the actual science to gold standard clinical data tells a very different story? What if that glass of milk isn't the villain it's made out to be? What if the highest quality scientific evidence we read talk in systematic reviews of dozens of clinical trials does debunk that story, but actually tells the opposite one, because the latest science is showing that for most people, milk isn't just not inflammatory. Unlike its helpful cousin, this isn't a targeted, temporary response. It's a slow, smoldering fire that burns throughout your body. It's a misfiring of the immune system where the on switch gets stuck. This is the inflammation scientists are truly worried about, because it is the silent driver behind so many of our most devastating chronic diseases. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome have all been linked to the smoldering systemic inflammation. So, when we ask, is dairy inflammatory? What we're really asking is, does consuming it contribute to this dangerous, chronic inflammation? To answer that, scientists don't guess. They measure. They look for specific signals in the blood known as inflammatory bio. The three most common are C-reactive protein CRP, interleukin-6 IL-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha TM. Think of these as the chemical messengers of your immune system. In a state of chronic inflammation, their levels are constantly elevated, signaling that the body is on high alert. So, the only way to scientifically answer the dairy question is to see what happens to these biomarkers when people consume dairy in controlled studies. Do the levels go up, stay the same, or go down? The answer isn't in anecdotes, but in the data. The investigation part 1, the hierarchy of evidence in an age of information overload. We're drowning in conflicting health. The special case of fermented dairy within the world of dairy. There's a special category that deserves its own spotlight. Fermented dairy. We're talking about yogurt, kefir, and certain cheeses. These aren't just milk in a different form. They are transformed by billions of living microorganisms, probiotics, that give them unique health-promoting properties. One of the most profound effects of these probiotics is their interaction with our gut, which is home to the majority of our body's immune cells. These good microbes help strengthen our intestinal barrier, reinforcing our body's front line of defense. The conclusion was another major blow to the anti-dairy story. The analysis found that consuming fermented dairy led to a statistically significant decrease in C-reactive protein CR, one of our most important markers of systemic inflammation. The effect was especially notable in people who already had metabolic diseases, a group often characterized by high levels of chronic inflammation. Think about what this means. The very foods so often demonized, especially yogurt and kefir, are the ones the evidence suggests are actively fighting inflammation. They aren't just a source of calcium and protein. They're functional foods that can play a role in regulating our body's inflammatory state. First is the huge mix-up between a true milk allergy and lactose intolerance. They are fundamentally different. This is inflammatory for that person, and they must avoid dairy. It happens when you don't have enough of the enzyme lactase to break down milk sugar. The undigested sugar ferments in the gut, causing gas, bloating, and discomfort. This critical distinction is almost always lost in the popular conversation. Since some dairy products contain it, they got lumped in. But we're now learning that the source of the saturated fat matters immensely. The bigger reviews we've already looked at found that even high-fat dairy had a neutral or anti-inflammatory effect, challenging this outdated idea. Finally, there's the A1 versus A2 casein controversy. This is an emerging area of research that might explain why some people without an allergy or intolerance still feel better avoiding dairy. Cow's milk contains a protein called beta, which has two main types, a 1 and a 2. When we digest the more modern A1 variant, if you're finding this breakdown of the real science of nutrition valuable, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. The climax. The big reveal. So, after climbing the pyramid of evidence, sifting through dozens of human trials, and addressing the real reasons for all the confusion, what's the final verdict? Is milk inflammatory? The verdict from the overwhelming body of scientific research is clear, consistent, and confident. For the vast majority of people, dairy is not pro-inflammatory. The idea that a glass of milk fuels a fire of chronic inflammation in your body is, for most of us, a myth. A significant and growing body of the highest quality science points towards a mild but consistent anti-inflammatory effect. We've seen that dairy consumption is associated with lower levels of key inflammatory markers like CRP, IL-6, and TNF. And we've even seen that fermented dairy like yogurt and kefir shows particular promise in actively regulating the immune system. You are now armed with the highest quality scientific evidence on dairy and inflammation. The next time you see a dramatic headline or hear someone claim that milk is inflammatory, you'll know what the science actually says. You can separate fear from facts. Of course, nutrition is personal. You have to listen to your body. The choice to include dairy in your diet is yours alone, but it should be an informed one, based on the weight of scientific evidence. Not the science is in, and it should empower you, not restrict you. Milk isn't the villain. For most people, it's a nutrient-dense food with a neutral or even beneficial effect on inflammation. The real villain is the misinformation that creates fear and confusion in today. You've armed yourself with the ultimate weapon to fight it, the truth.